It is about the year 1820, and this is down one of the lanes in the town of Kingston.
Coming. Ah, hello, Robert. You're late.
Oh, yes. You know, we had some extra work.
I never understand why you took up this business of being a printer's apprentice.
Offer me a cup of tea and I'll tell you.
Okay, that's a fair exchange. Tell you what, while I make the tea, you talk.
Sure. You know, at first printing was just something to learn to do. But recently, I've been thinking that the whole business of printing and making newspapers is going to become important in Jamaica someday.
Perhaps.
Especially for people like us who can't get into the legislature to make our views known. I think we could reach people through a newspaper. Let the whole world know about the things we don't like.
Sounds reasonable. What else have you been thinking about?
Well, I've been thinking of how we just sit here and take the things we don't like. You know, our English or Scotch or Irish fathers freed us. We didn't have to fight for that. But we're not really free, for we don't enjoy any of the important rights of free men in our society. And we're not doing a damn thing about fighting for those rights.
Well, some of us are certainly doing a lot of talking about it.
Listen, Jacques, this is my country. I know no other. My mother was an African slave, and my father was English. But I know nothing of Africa or England. This country is mine, and I'm going to fight to have a say in it.
Now look, Bob, that sort of talk can get into a lot of trouble.
I know. And that's partly what makes me so angry. A man can't speak a plain, simple truth or express a worthwhile feeling.
Well, I wish I knew what we could do about it. Hey, Bob, look. Tomorrow, let's go and see old Mackintosh. Let's see what he thinks.
That old Scot son of a gun.
Oh, he's not all that bad. He's known us since we were little boys. And he's always liked us too, remember? Let's see what he thinks about all this.
All right. I don't suppose we have anything to lose.
Young men, I wonder if you realize what dangerous things you've been saying to me. This is one step removed from revolution. It's straight from Haiti.
But, Mr. Mackintosh, all we want to do is take part in the affairs of the country in which we live. I mean, for the time being, we accept the law which says a man must have a certain amount of property or pay a certain amount of taxes before he can vote. But provided a man has the property qualifications, I can't see why the color of his skin should prevent him from voting.
Young men, equality is the dream of fools.
Yes, sir. We know that God created men with different talents and different capacities. This is so even among people like yourself. But it is certainly no argument against our belief that all free men in a society should enjoy all the rights that society holds out to any of its members.
Now you listen to me. We took this island from the Spaniards and built it up with our blood and guts. Whatever it is, we made it, and we are going to rule it. We are going to have the say in whatever happens in this country, and we have no intention of surrendering any of our powers to anyone. I've known both of you almost from the time that you were babies, and I like you. Take my advice. Let well enough alone, and be thankful for small mercies. You are free, and as colored people, we've given you a special place in this society. Thank God for small mercies, and don't tempt fate. Leave the government of this country to those to whom it properly belongs.
Mr. Mackintosh, like yourself, I have in my veins the blood of the people who took this island from the Spaniards and gave their guts to build up its wealth. I also have in me the blood of the people who were forced to give their bodies and souls to tear the wealth out of the soil of Jamaica. I have a double claim to this country.
That's enough from you, Robert Osborn. I've had enough of your insolence.
Come on, Bob. We're sorry, Mr. Mackintosh. Sorry.
All right, Jack, but you'd better look about your friend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Come on, Bob. Yes, sir.
Look, Bob,
I think we'd better forget this whole business.
No. I'm going over to see Edward Jordan. If Jordan thinks the time is not yet ripe, then we'll forget about the whole thing.
So you're about to give up, eh?
Perhaps.
I'm glad you came to see me. If you hadn't come, sooner or later, I'd have come round to see you. Lads, God has given us all intelligence and strength. We can think and we can do things. Given the opportunity, we can, if we will, reach to any height attained by any man. At least, that's the way I feel about it in my bones. I know I can think and reason as clearly as any man. And that's all the proof I need that God did not make me to be a third-class human being. Don't give up hope. Hold on a little while longer. We can win through.
I think we could put that forward to me. Yes, they should come. Yes, I come for it. Because we also will inquire. Right, let them share. Perhaps you better get going now.
Oh, yes. Are we all here?
Well, all who are invited are here, Edward. Even Bob Osborn. Right, well, was anybody laying bets that I wouldn't be here? Oh, man, it was 10 to 1 that you'd be down at Mary Jane's lodging house. Please.
All right, gentlemen. All right, let's get down to business. It's taken us several months to get to the point of calling this meeting. So, let's not waste the evening. I'll state the case as briefly and as plainly as I can. Now, most of us here in this room tonight are the descendants of British fathers and African slave mothers. Our fathers made us free, but the society in which we live has made a joke of this freedom by denying us the basic civil rights which free men should be entitled to in the country in which they belong. I think the time has come to change the situation. In this room tonight, many of us are here who are well-educated men. Some of us even are fairly rich. Quite a few are well-esteemed businessmen and tradesmen. Yet we can't vote or run as candidates in any election. Which means we can't be councilmen and we can't be members of the assembly. We can't give evidence in a court of law. And there are even laws designed to prevent us from owning property.
Yes, there are even jobs that none of us could ever get, no matter how capable. We can't hold commissions in the militia. We can't even be hired as overseers or to any other managerial position on an estate. We can't be jurymen or magistrates.
That's quite true, gentlemen, that's quite true. But I still maintain that the most important thing is for us to get the right to vote. Once we have the right to vote, we can put in men into the assembly who believe in the things we believe in. And so we can start working peacefully for the reforms we want. We've made repeated attempts to get the assembly to listen to us, but they refused. And as most of you know, we've gathered here this evening to form a secret society. This society will work to achieve civil rights for every free man in Jamaica. And I suggest that the first thing we must do is elect officers. And the first officer we must elect is a secretary. That's the most important job.
Now who'll stand? I nominate Jack Anderson. Jack Anderson, a good man.
No. Yes, very good. Look, gentlemen, please, no, look, I really don't have the qualifications for this. Oh, yes, you do. I'm talking about it. No, what you mean?
Jack, you're a well-educated man.
No, seriously, I'm really serious. I'll have to.
Are you afraid? Are you afraid?
I'm not afraid.
All right, order.
I beg to nominate Tom Peters.
I have a wife and 5 children. That's a fine excuse.
No, you stood down as well, after all. That's what we went to. Organization. Yes, let's persons so far have declined to take the perilous job of being secretary of our little secret organization, including myself.
Yeah, so we noticed.
Well, under the circumstances, therefore, I think we ought to nominate the man who, in my opinion, is best suited for the job, being the most fearless and strong-minded of us all. I mean, none other than Edward Jordan.
All right, you bunch of cowards. I'll take the job. But before you make your final decision, I think you'd better hear what I have to say.
Well, let's hear it, Edward.
Working for civil and political equality is one thing. But all our activity will be meaningless unless we carry this activity to its logical conclusion. I think you all understand what I mean.
You mean to help put an end to slavery?
That's what I mean.
Well, I don't know about that.
Let none of you forget that your mothers or grandmothers were slaves. Don't put yourselves too high above that fact just because a generation or two may have slipped in between. I say before God, gentlemen, our cause is worthless if we confine our activities to the interests of our immediate group. Our aim must be the ultimate good of every man in this country. That must be our aim, gentlemen.
I'm with you, Mr. Secretary.
Well, what about the rest of you?
I don't know, it might be running a bit too fast.
Well, Edward, we'll see how it goes. But first things first, let's take it one step at a time. First, political participation and civil rights. And then we'll see how it goes from there.
I think that's fair enough.
All right, gentlemen. Let's get down to business.
I've asked to see you, sir, because I believe I have evidence of matters which are of extreme importance to the safety of this colony.
Well, let's have it.
These letters and papers have recently fallen into my hands. They're the correspondence of a secret society which has been operating in our midst. Take this letter, for example, sir. It shows clearly what their objectives are. As far as I can interpret them, I'd say that they strike at the roots of the entire Jamaican community.
Well, I'm damned. All these fellows, eh? And I thought they were quite harmless. We'll have to show these to the governor.
Perhaps, but I don't think we ought to dignify this business with official action yet.
You're right.
Besides, liberal opinion in England can easily swing in favor of these fellows.
Opinion in England has gone soft since the American War and the French Revolution. First they cut off the slave trade, and now it's this blasted anti-slavery rubbish.
People at home don't realize conditions here. It's easy to develop liberal opinions when one is far removed from the actual...
Precisely.
But these fellows will not succeed, Mackintosh. Fortunately, we have the means to stifle them. Many of them are known by us, and many of them are employed by us, our friends, and our acquaintances. Need I tell you what to do to bring them back into line?
Peters?
Yes, sir?
Come here a moment, please.
Yes, sir?
I'm a blunt man, Peters, so I'll get straight to the point. Are you a member of this secret society for civil rights?
Secret society, sir?
Yes, are you deaf?
Well, I don't really...
Stop hedging, man.
Well, yes, I have been to one or two of the meetings.
I thought so. You're a good man, Peters, and I'd like to keep you in my business. But if I hear of you mixing with these meetings again, you'll be out. They're going to be destroyed. Take my advice. Don't get caught with them when the axe falls.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You may go, Peters.
Thank you, sir.
You sent for me, sir?
Yes, Anderson. How are the accounts?
Well, the books are all written up, sir, and I'm ready to close off now.
What do you do in your spare time, Anderson?
Spare time, sir? Spare time? Well, I do a bit of reading, sir, and I go for walks, and sometimes I visit my friends.
You go to any meetings, Anderson?
Well, sir, I meet my friends.
Secret meetings, I suppose.
Are you accusing me of something, sir?
I'm accusing you of being a member of the secret society to procure civil rights for free-colored people, are you?
Well, I should think that is my business.
Don't speak to me like that. And answer my question.
I'm sorry, sir. But I refuse to answer that question.
And you're fired. Fired! Fired!
Well, Edward, I've lost my job.
My family and I have been kicked out in the streets by the landlord. A week ago, we thought he was the kindest man in the world.
I've lost my job too. My employer was kind enough to tell me he didn't like my political sentiments.
Well, do we keep on?
Of course, sir.
In 1823, the Society was strong enough to file a petition to the House of Assembly asking for full participation of the free-colored people in the political life of the island. The petition was rejected, but the Society defiantly sent Richard Hill and Alexander Simpson with it to England.
Bear in mind, gentlemen, that you may be allowed within the bar of the House of Commons. Be eloquent. Plead our cause well.
Hill and Simpson pleaded the cause well before the House of Commons. The British Parliament listened sympathetically, but felt it could not interfere at the moment with the workings of the Jamaica Constitution.
What have you been doing these days, Edward?
Oh, just drifting from one job to the next. I've got to make myself independent. Independent of bosses, somehow, Bob. That's the only way that I can avoid victimization when I agitate for civil rights. I'm thinking of opening a liquor store. What do you think?
Sounds like a good idea, but I hope your friends won't be your customers.
I've even got a good spot. Corner of East Street and Tower Street.
Oh, that's a good place, I believe.
But you know what I really want to do?
What?
Write a newspaper. That's the only way I can openly agitate my views on civil rights. And you can help me. You're a journeyman printer.
I'll certainly help. Starting a newspaper is an old dream of mine. We could start a weekly if we worked hard enough. And a daily with a little help. But we'll need capital.
Well, that's where my liquor store comes in, if we can make a success of it.
Apart from the liquor store, Jordan and Osborn started one of the first bookstores in the island, and finally, in about 1829, the two struggling partners had enough money to launch their newspaper.
What are you going to call it, Edward?
I'd like to call it the Watchman and Jamaica Free Press.
That's too long. In a month, everyone will be calling it the Watchman.
Oh, let them call it what they like. Are you sure you want to go through this thing with me, Bob?
More than anything else I've ever wanted to do.
Don't forget, you know, the legislature has passed an act decreeing the death penalty for all persons convicted of printing what a jury or judge declared to be seditious and dangerous material. Now, I'm going to strike out hard in my editorials. And don't be surprised if very shortly they're calling what I print dangerous and seditious.
Then they can hang us both, Edward. But I'm with you to the hilt.
Thank you, Bob. Now, as far as my policy is concerned, I'm going to support the work of the missionaries, but I'm going to give hell to those churchmen who support slavery. And above all, I'm going to use my pen unceasingly to fight for civil rights.
I can see where the Watchman is going to make history.
It will. It will.
And the Watchman did make history. While Jordan thundered in the Watchman for civil rights, and the enemies of slavery fought for its abolition in England, the slave population of Jamaica grew restless. They turned to their leaders for direction and for an explanation of what was happening. The most outstanding of these leaders was Samuel Sharpe, a slave from Montego Bay who could read and write, and who was a leader in the Baptist missionary movement.
When it comes to Christmas, you see,
we're supposed to have 3 holidays. The 25th, the 26th, and the 27th. No, sir? We're supposed to go back to work on the 28th. But this time, we're not going. A driver on every estate will go to the overseer and make him know we're not working until they agree to pay us wages. We're going to hold the overseer and bookkeeper on every estate and no work till they agree to pay us. And once they start to pay us, we are no more slaves.
Yes, but what about the soldiers? Yes, and what about the soldiers?
The soldiers, the king's soldiers not going to fight we if what we believe is true, that we are free. And if the soldiers don't fight, the militia not going to give us too much trouble. One thing we have to make up our mind to do, and that is to stick together once we start, to carry out what we plan to do. And don't be afraid. Remember, God is our refuge and strength, a present help in time of trouble. Therefore, will we not fear. Though the earth be moved, and the mountain be cast into the midst of the sea.
But in spite of his good intentions, Samuel Sharpe's attempt at an organized strike developed into a bloody rebellion, and in the end, 160 properties were damaged by fire. 12 planters and settlers were killed, and against that, 500 slaves were killed, and among them was Samuel Sharpe. On the heels of the slaughter, a reaction set in certain quarters.
It's those bloody missionaries who are to blame.
Well, I don't know about that. My own country, America, slavery still has a fast hold. But I'm beginning to think that Jamaica is past the stage where slavery will work. There's a great feeling amongst the slaves to be free. Repressive measures won't stop it, and I doubt if bullets will for much longer. And besides, they know that there's many people in England who want to put an end to slavery, and they're definitely on their side.
You amaze me, Beaumont. Only yesterday you and your newspaper were fighting hotly for our cause. Now you're backing down.
So, I'm a thinking man, and I'm just sizing up the situation. If those people go on producing men like Samuel Sharpe, you'll never keep them in chains. I think that Edward Jordan is nearer the truth at this stage than we shall ever be.
Jack, you seen the latest copy of the Watchman? No. Read here. We have been consistent throughout, and now that the member for Westmoreland has come over to our side, we shall be happy with him and the other friends of humanity to give a long pull, a strong pull, and a pull together until we bring the system down, knock off the fetters, and let the oppressed go free. What do you think of that?
Bob, come here a minute.
Don't tell me I've gotten another brainwave.
Not exactly. I want you to listen to this week's editorial and tell me what you think of it. Listen, Bob, we have been repeatedly taunted with being opposed to the best interests of the island, if to stand boldly forward as the consistent advocates of the rights of humanity, if to put forward our best energies to stem the torrent of the heartless and revolting oppressors of the wretched and defenseless slaves, and hold them up to the execration of the virtuous and humane, if to do this be really in contravention of the best interests of the island, we at once plead guilty to that charge. And we further declare in the most unequivocal manner that we shall not fail, as often as opportunity may serve, to repeat these high crimes and misdemeanors. What do you think, Bob?
No, they'll really hang you.
I want Jordan arrested before he brings this country tumbling about our ears.
What shall we charge him with, sir?
Charge him in his capacity as editor of the Watchman with the crimes of sedition and treason.
Bob! Bob! Is Mr. Robert Osborn at home?
Yes, Jack, I'm in here.
Bob, have you heard what's happened to Edward Jordan? What? They've arrested him and charged him with treason and sedition.
My God. The penalty for that is death.
Boy, I've never seen the courthouse look so crowded.
Yes. I wonder who is the judge.
See him there? It's the Irishman. It's the Attorney General, Fitzherbert Beatty.
Oh, yes, there he is. Well, let's see what Justice Ireland can produce for us today.
I have been asked to indict this man, Edward Jordan, for treason. But I refuse. My own countrymen in Ireland are at this very moment panting for freedom, even for the freedom to worship as they choose. I cannot conscientiously undertake the prosecution of a man who is fighting for political and domestic emancipation. Edward Jordan has written nothing that our great Irish patriot, Daniel O'Connell, would not have written. And I am in sympathy with Daniel O'Connell.
God bless Ireland and Daniel O'Connell!
We'll get that Edward Jordan yet. But there's a lot of sympathy for him in the town, and that secret society of his is capable of anything. I don't like the look of things. I have a feeling that if he's convicted and sentenced to death, there'll be an uprising. And that's why I'm in favor of asking the governor to have troops stand by in readiness, and a warship train its gun on the city, just in case.
Fellow members, if Edward Jordan is sentenced to death, we are going to rescue him by force. That may lead to anything, even death for us. So those who want to withdraw had better do so now.
The trial dragged on, and finally it became apparent that the government had a weak case against Jordan. Then one day, in the hush of a packed and tense courtroom, the judge spoke.
I hereby instruct the jury to acquit the accused Edward Jordan for lack of evidence.
But almost at once, Jordan was charged with libel. He was quickly convicted and sentenced to a fine of £100 and 12 months in jail. He appealed through the Colonial Secretary to the Law Office of the Crown, which handed down a reversal of the judgment. The fine was cancelled and the sentence withdrawn. But by that time, Jordan had already served 6 months in jail.
Well, Edward, you look none the worse for wear. A little paler, perhaps, but just as tough and robust.
Thank you, Bob.
You know, we were hoping for you to take a little vacation.
Vacation? I've had my vacation. 6 months in jail.
Your enemies were hoping that 6 months would have cooled you down somewhat.
Is that a fact? Well, I've got a barrel of gunpowder for them. I want to publish this.
What is it?
First of all, it's a document setting out the facts about the secret society. I think it's time we came out in the open. But it's the second part that I think will interest you most. Read it.
I demand the instant repeal of every restrictive law, the removal of every disability, and the extension of complete political equality. I declare that if these demands are not complied with, the whole colored population will rise in arms, will proclaim freedom to their own slaves, and will instigate all the slaves on the island to rebellion. Then we will shout war and wage it until the streets of Kingston run blood. Edward, you've gone mad.
Don't preach to me, Bob. Just print it.
Where's everybody? They're in the drawing room waiting for us. Come.
The President of the Assembly, as we know, is a tough man. Well, Jack? Well, for God's sake, what? Speak up, man.
What is it, Jack?
Are they coming for me or something?
No, Edward. Not at all. The legislature has just passed an act granting to this country all the civil rights that we've been fighting for. Gentlemen, we've won. We've won. Don't you understand?
No cheers?
We've won.
No shouts of joy? Well, I must confess that I'm closer to tears at this moment than anything else.
Gentlemen, there's something I've got to say. Behold Edward Jordan, a great Jamaican, and definitely the greatest fighter of our generation.
Yes.
Well might we call him the untitled ruler of a ransomed race.
Yes.
Edward Jordan.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you all. But none of this would have been possible if I had not fought in your company. But this is only the beginning, gentlemen. Only the beginning. We have won the right to vote and the right to run for political office. We may now give evidence in court and hold positions which formerly were not open to us. We may now acquire all the property that we are able to acquire and get all the rights of citizenship that hitherto were denied to us. Now we must join with all the people of goodwill in our country and in England to wipe out the greatest evil in our country, Jamaica. I mean the evil of slavery.
Definitely.
May we never rest until we've won that.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, I vote a toast to that.
All right, come gentlemen, let's drink up. Peter, the torch.
A couple of years later, slavery in Jamaica was abolished. And in the years following that, Edward Jordan went on to gain great honors in the service of his country. And here we may well leave the story of the Watchman, another milestone in our climb to freedom and independence.